Welcome to the first anniversary edition of Security and Compliance Weekly. We are super excited, proud, and even humbled to be able to say that we've been doing this show for an entire year. And what a year it's been, but let's not go there. Today we have planned a little roundtable discussion amongst the co-hosts to kind of recap the previous year. Talk about our favorite moments, episodes, maybe not so favorite, maybe, and we'd love to hear from you on the Discord server, things you liked, things you didn't like, anything you want to share with us, we'll try to get it on the air. We're going to spitball maybe even a little bit about what we want to do in the coming year. In our second segment, we're going to have a group discussion about ransomware, SCW style, if you will, and try to talk about what can be done about ransomware and how security and or compliance helps or hinders organizations from being able to defend themselves against ransomware. So grab your favorite beverage. It's okay, I said so. Tell him Mr. Jeff said it was okay. And join us as we continue our journey of tearing down silos and building bridges on Security and Compliance Weekly.
This is a Security Weekly production. And now, it's the show that bridges the requirements of regulations, compliance, and privacy with those of security. Your trusted source for complying with various mandates, building effective programs, and current compliance news. It's time for Security and Compliance Weekly. The average cost to respond to an insider threat is $11.45 million. That's a lot of reasons why a functional insider threat program must be a core part of any modern cybersecurity strategy. To protect your organization's sensitive data and meet compliance requirements, you need controls in place to deter, detect, and disrupt insider threats. With ECRAN system, you can meet control requirements imposed by compliance mandates all within one insider threat management platform. Get your free 30-day trial at securityweekly.com/ECRAN. That's EKRAN, and fulfill your compliance requirements. It's the end of the quarter. You've got a mountain of compliance tasks to complete, daily requests from sales for security documentation, and an upcoming audit. You're waiting on evidence requests, and you can't find the policy you wrote last week. Compliance management is hard. Aptable Comply makes it simple. Comply is an end-to-end, purpose-built GRC platform to manage compliance. From automating evidence collection to integrating with your existing SaaS tools, Comply simplifies the hardest parts of managing compliance. Reduce manual processes and build trust with your customers. Visit securityweekly.com/Aptable to learn more. Cyber risk and compliance automation is finally here. Legacy GRC systems cannot simplify the complex use cases and deliver powerful automation that cyber teams need. CyberSaint's integrated risk management solution ingests data from your existing tech stack, dynamically lighting up controls using patented AI. Leverage your expertise and showcase business value. Let your risk and compliance solution work for you. See why the most forward-thinking CISOs of the Fortune 500 support their teams with CyberSaint. Maximize your cybersecurity program today. Visit securityweekly.com/CyberSaint SCW.
Welcome to episode number 46 of Security and Compliance Weekly, recorded on October 6th, 2020. We began this show 1 year ago, October 2019, so we are in fact celebrating our first anniversary today. If you're interested in watching previous episodes, or you'd like to have all of your Security Weekly content at your fingertips, or you want to hear from Sam and Andrea when we have upcoming webcasts and technical trainings, or you have a question for one of our illustrious hosts, or someone from the Security Weekly team, or you wish you could just hang out with us, with the Security Weekly crew and the community. Do all this by subscribing on your favorite podcast catcher, sign up for our mailing list, or join our Discord server to stay in the loop on all things Security Weekly. You can do so by visiting securityweekly.com/subscribe to get the ball rolling. Also, it's official.
Contrary to Jeff's remarks, we do not need your fingerprints or biometric devices. We will, however, be collecting blood, DNA, and hair samples. No big deal.
No big deal. We already have all that anyway. It's official. Security Weekly, in partnership with the Cyber Risk Alliance, who's actually Security Weekly now since they bought us, is excited to present Security Weekly Unlocked. This is going to be on December 10th, 2020. It's the inaugural edition of Security Weekly Unlocked. It'll be virtual, of course. And we're also going to be celebrating that day, Security Weekly's 15th anniversary. We are looking for speakers, and the registration and the call for speakers is now open. You can find all the information you need at securityweekly.com/unlocked to submit your speaking session. Go there, register for free, come join the fun. I switched it up a little, guys, today. I don't know if you noticed, but I did the announcements and got them out of the way. So now let me introduce my illustrious co-hosts, Mr. Josh Marpet, Mr. Scott Lyons, and Mr. John Snyder, Esquire. Gentlemen, welcome to our first anniversary show.
45 episodes! What? Okay, maybe that was
counting.
A little bit too much, but 45 episodes and counting. 1 year. We have crossed so many things on this show, and we've got so much more to deal with. Holy cow.
All right.
Like,
So
Jeff,
Scott's
you and I were
excited.
talking
That's
about,
good.
you and I were talking about topics that we could hit
Yeah.
for the next 5 years, right? But before we get into all of that, I want to throw it back to you, Jeff. You had something you wanted to do.
I do want to introduce. We don't have an interview today, but we do have sort of a special guest, special co-host for our first anniversary episode. Kat Valentine. Kat, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, Scott and Josh have been bugging me for like a month or two, saying, "Hey, you got to get Kat Valentine on the show." So we finally connected, talked over the weekend, and Kat was telling me that I guess she's been working a job recently. Got to know Scott. She said that she's known Josh the longest, and even with that, she said, "Yeah, I'll come on the show." So here she is. Thanks.
You're just titchy because she's an ex-QSA and you guys talked PCI. And
That's it.
We did talk PCI. So, Kat, not to put you on the spot or anything, but if you could just take a few moments to introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about yourself, how you got into security, how you got into compliance. If you want to mention PCI, I have a drink in hand, so feel free.
No,
the
thank
drinking
you.
game is only Jeff.
Yeah, I've been in the ITIS industry for about 20 years, well, actually over 20 years. Started off in, tech support, network operations center, kind of did a lot of, and then moved into a network engineer, voice network engineer. So kind of moving old POTS lines to new voice over IP, Cisco kid kind of stuff, right? And then I decided to pivot to security. Started off as a network vulnerability researcher for a PCI ASV, which got me into being a QSA or the PCI auditor, or assessor. And then from there, I kind of found that I couldn't really help my customers too much as the auditor. It's a weird kind of dynamic, so I decided to just be a free agent and doing that. So I've been doing that for a long time now too. I'm either the free agent that you call in to help your internal security teams. I've worked on internal security teams like Cloudflare, Heroku, and Westfield, the big malls, and then decided to go back to free agenting and designed the first platform of its kind where it automates compliance initiatives for SOC 2.
Interesting. Hey, I don't want to digress on PCI, but it's interesting that you talk about the limitations of making an impact as a QSA.
Yes, you do.
I'm going to say, all right, I do. I lied. I do want to say this one thing. I've been very fortunate to work for a QSA company, a company I work for now, Online Business Systems, where the team, I think long ago recognized either A, they're not going to be able to, keep my mouth shut anyway, but they more or less let me operate as a free agent when I go in and do the assessments. One of my first major PCI gigs happened to be with the TJX companies back in 2008-ish, 9-ish. think it was 2008, and they had been majorly breached. They were one of the first big retailers to be breached, and it was big news all over the place. I was brought in as a trusted advisor. I was a QSA, but they said, no, these guys just need help. Just listen to them, observe them, watch them, and tell them what they need to hear. And I said, no holds barred, and they said, no holds barred. Not that that would matter anyway, because it's me. So I guess I've been fortunate enough to be able to operate sort of as that free agent. Doesn't mean I haven't been fired a few times, let me be honest, but that PCI at least is a springboard to have that conversation if anybody will let it. But enough of that for now. I do want to put you on the spot just real briefly. We always ask our guests the same question. It's called a hot seat question, and it's really not, there's no right or wrong answer. We just want to get some insight from you on sort of how you view the world, what we call the security versus compliance continuum. So the question is simply, where do you fall on the security versus compliance continuum?
Where do I fall? Okay. Well, while I was an auditor, one of the cool things about that QSA company that I was working at was that they also had a pen testing arm. And one of the things that I kind of insisted at the time was, hey, let me go on a couple of these pen testing gigs. So I learned how to do that. I've also learned how to do forensics engagements and things like that. I studied that for a couple of years and was going to school for it while I was an auditor. And the way that I view compliance is, it's kind of the, how to put this, it's kind of the thing that enables real security to happen, if that makes sense. A lot of companies, I'm out here in the Bay, and so there's a lot of startups and stuff like that, and they don't really care about security early on. But they do care about making sales early on. So something like SOC 2. SOC 2 is pretty in demand out here, everywhere. As a company, you'll get hit with, okay, well, where is your SOC 2 report, something that shows that a third party came in and did anything, right? And so they're like, oh, we got to get a SOC 2. We got to get a SOC 2. Well, no, first you need to take a step back and actually have a decent security posture. That's the only way you're going to be able to achieve this other goal that you've got. So that's, I guess, hopefully that explains where I'm at. Compliance is the enabler, I feel like, for security. Otherwise, there's a lot of businesses that won't even go for it. They won't throw budget. They won't throw money at it. They'll just ignore it. So that's where I'm at.
Speaking of posture, one more PCI story. I don't think I've told this on the air before, at least not on this show, but also an early PCI customer that was also a compromised entity. Happened to be the same Gonzalez ring that had hit TJX companies, but the security manager who I was working with at this company was, in my opinion, being a little bit flippant and was showing us at the beginning of this. We were there after compromise, trying to get them back in the PCI good graces, and he was giving us a sort of a whiteboard overview of the whole company in different locations. And there was this one particular location that he said, "Well, but there's no card data there, so you don't need to go there." And I said to him, "Well, except for you're a compromised." They happen to be a service provider. As far as I'm concerned right now, speaking of security posture, you should be bent over, firmly grasping your ankles.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my! Oh my!
And that's the guy who actually gave me my one honorary certification.
Was that Jeremiah? Jeremiah Grossman?
It was not Jeremiah Grossman. I will not name names.
That is April Fool's joke. The application security specialist. I had the hat.
Well, I still have it, and if you looked at my LinkedIn profile, it's actually listed there.
I have opinions if you got time for it.
Well, we're hopefully we're going to entice you back, and we can have long, lengthy discussions about PCI and bore the snot out of the other co-hosts. But let's talk about this past year. And open it up to anyone, who wants to talk about sort of, their favorite moments, least favorite moments, highlights, lowlights. Jump in. We've covered a lot of ground in the last year, actually.
Can I actually, I want to throw something out there.
Sure.
Before we jump into episodes and favorite episodes and crappy episodes and whatever, not that there really are any, as long as I'm on there. I do want to point out that while we are the public face of Security and Compliance Weekly, there's a hell of a lot of people that do a lot of work that makes it possible. If it wasn't for Johnny and Andrea and Joe and that guy
And Sam.
Paul, he's around sometimes.
Paul, yes.
And
And
Matt,
Sam.
And all of the
Yeah,
people,
those guys.
Johnny,
Johnny.
thank you.
Yeah, that includes
And
the
that
new
other
guy, too.
guy. The new
Who's
guy.
that other guy?
What's the new guy's name?
Gustavo? Gus?
Goose.
Gustavo.
Gus. He
Gus.
responds to a lot
Huh?
of things.
That guy behind the
if-
keyboard? The other guy behind the keyboard?
If we didn't have them, we could not do this. This would not be possible. Their talent, their drive, their ability, and their very meager paychecks. I mean, no, they're awesome, and thank you. Couldn't do this without you guys.
Thanks, everyone. Yes.
Okay, I'm the only one clapping here. What's up? What's wrong with this picture?
I'm
It's 'cause
raising
I
my
said it.
glass,
I don't
so
have to
I
clap.
can't clap.
Just say PCI, Jeff. We can all raise our glass at the same time.
PCI.
There we
PCI, thank you.
Yes.
No, you brought up a good point, though, Josh. I don't think there really have been that terribly many low points on this show. I feel like pretty much every episode we've had decent conversations with some very interesting guests. I feel like we covered a pretty good cross spectrum, and I'm not saying this to pat ourselves on the backs or anything, but I think we're kind of nailing it.
Yeah.
A little
really-
bit, but
I
you know,
got
the big bone of contention this past year, two little words that we all love to hear: cyber insurance. And you knew this was going to happen, Jeff.
Of course.
Like, there's no way of
But-
getting around this. You know, the open call for anybody to come on this show and tell us, and really survive the Thunderdome, why cyber insurance actually matters, and it isn't snake oil, right? Draining resources from companies and then not giving it back when it's needed. Okay. The open call is still there for anybody to come on and challenge the idea. You know, we literally want a cyber insurance company to come on the show and fight us.
Nobody
I mean,
has so far?
I do.
Nope, nobody has.
Huh?
Do you
Nobody
know
has-
someone,
oh.
Kat?
No, not really. I don't.
I just want to
play
point
with-
out that from the Discord, I plead the fifth. Casper did not say he has the clap. He was clapping. We're just pointing out that any STDs that Scott has are not relevant to the show notes. They are only relevant to anybody else. Okay, that's just pointing that out.
And that
I
came
think
from the
I have a
Discord. So if you're
PCI
not- if you're not on the Discord, you're missing out on the conversation.
Oh my God, are you missing out on the conversation?
But
Hey,
if you
Scott,
scroll
show off
up
your
on the
hat.
Discord-
somebody asked about your hat.
Somebody's asking about the hat. Scroll up on the Discord. I tried to capture all of our guests from the previous year. I mean, we've
Great
had we had Ron Ross on early from NIST, talking to NIST, and looking to the future. I would still like to get on somebody on the show from CIS, perhaps some of the certification organizations. If you're listening, we want you. ISC Squared. Maybe ISSA, maybe ISACA. We'll probably end up having somebody on from the Cyber Risk Alliance at some point. Who knows?
Ooh, y'all had Mark Cooper on? I love that guy.
Yes, we had the entire PCI Dream Team on in the last, time is a blur. In the last year.
Sometime
It seems
in the
like it
last
was
year,
only in the last month or two ago. Yeah, we did have the obligatory cyber insurance, and we've had more and more, and this is the good news for everybody, at least from a business perspective, we've had more sponsors on lately. And I will be honest, I'm not a big fan of technology. I'm not a big fan of technical solutions. I understand that they're important and necessary, but I don't get jazzed up about them like Paul does. If you go to Enterprise Security Weekly if you want to see the latest, greatest. But we've had some really great conversations with our sponsors. I think they've all done a really good job of talking about what problem they're trying to solve, which is a question that we always ask from Security Weekly Productions. And they present themselves and they present what they're doing that I think actually can help companies, which is what I care about at the end of the day. Any thoughts, gentlemen, along those lines?
I mean, we've had companies come on the show that have tried to showcase a lot of what they're doing and have really had great success and been able to use this as a stepping stone. We've had other companies come on the show that have spouted FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and such general cyber terms to try to play buzzword bingo, right? Mm-hmm. That we've called them on it, and it's happened in a very epic way, you know? So you're right, Jeff. We have had companies that have run the gambit of being able to interact with us, right? It's not easy dealing with us. It's not. We're so jaded from the industry and having to deal with vendors on a constant basis spamming our inboxes to, oh, dear God, give me a checklist and get out of my way. You know, it's just taking a really fresh look at how we're doing this has really been the aim over the last year, right?
Mm-hmm. At least one of the aims, yeah. I mean, that's actually a good question, though. I mean, going into this, I think, our first episode, the kickoff episode, we sort of talked about the goals, and at least from my perspective, and I think the jury's still out on whether I was rewarded with this show or whether Paul decided to put me off in a corner so I could talk PCI to my heart's content. But
we know that's totally true.
I very much, as a goal of the show, wanted to try to get the people from the security side of the world who I've been hanging out with these last years, that I think is a lot of our audience on the main show, Paul's Security Weekly. But I also run with sort of the compliance, for lack of a better term, the audit side of the crowd, even though I distinguish PCI as an assessment. But, GRC, sort of the hands-off, non-technical, not necessarily hacker types, but certainly people that play a significant role in organizations as consultants, advisors, assessors, architects, so on and so forth. But for lack of a better term, the softer side of the industry. I run in both worlds, and I meet smart people in both worlds, and over the last several years have really noticed, wow, that everybody's trying to tackle the same problem, but to one degree or another, one side doesn't know that the other side exists, or in some cases, they might have heard that there's another side, but they've been told, or they've gotten the impression that they are something to be avoided. The textbook example is remember when we used to go to Vegas in the summer for that thing called Hacker Summer Camp, and there was the whole black hat end of what was going on, and then there was the whole DEF CON B-sides end of what's going on, and physically they're about a mile apart because they're at different conference hotels, but so many people were like, oh, I'm not going that way. Oh, I'm not going that way. And it was bidirectional. So I really set out to try to figure out a way to get both sides to talk in a way where they could find out, hey, the other side isn't as stupid as I've been told, or isn't as irrelevant as I've been told. They actually have some smart things going on. Maybe we should pool our resources and try to tackle this problem together.
Everybody
Josh,
in security.
Scott,
yeah, no, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, what are your thoughts? I mean, what were your expectations coming into the show?
Everybody wants to say they have a team full of Thundercats, but the actual operation and implementation sometimes leaves things to be lacking. So, in the show, a lot of times what we try to cover is how to do things, right? How to implement a compliance program, how to correctly implement a security awareness program, right? It's more of the lacking of the soft skills that we haven't hit that we're going to try to hit in, I don't know, the next year, right? How do you actually do effective empathy management of people, right? Just because you're a leader doesn't mean that you lead yourself. It means that you're in charge of other people, right? How do you enable those people? And that's really something that a lot of programs are missing, right? Is that directional focus towards empathy and backing your people, right? So over the next year, I think that's something that we really need to look into. Josh?
Well, I mean, I'm going to add on to that for one quick sentence, and that's how you break down silos and build bridges. But I will say that couldn't resist.
Right?
It's been a fascinating year. I came into this I tried to keep my expectations sort of neutral. I didn't know where we would go with this. I didn't know if it would, originally with Matt Alderman, of course, and massive props to Matt. He's done wonderful things, not the least of which is get Security Weekly sold to Cyber Risk Alliance.
The fact that he could navigate that water, Josh, and make it a win for everybody was just freaking huge, right?
Yeah, it was. And it was lovely. But I will tell you that when we started this show, I thought we'd talk to a lot of compliance people. We'd discuss different compliance regimes and standards. I had no idea it would extend in popularity to such the extent that it has. We have so many viewers, so many. Everyone has the right to be wrong. Jeff, you're awesome. We have so many viewers, so many people on Discord. We've literally held entire discussions on Discord, totally separate from the show, while we're live on the show, because our viewers come up with something, and we've had so much fun with this. The interactivity of doing a live show has changed the dynamic so massively. It's so much fun to be here and be on Discord and know that people are watching us live and be able to discuss it with them and get their questions. I enjoy the hell out of this, and not the least of which is we get to talk to some of the smartest people in the realm. Josh Corman, Ian Amit, Win Schwartau, Liam the other week was
Jeanette
unbelievably cool dude. Like Liam is an unbelievably cool dude. You know, we get to, and Jeff, I know you had a full list. I glanced at it. I apologize. But I mean, there's a full list in Discord. Okay. If you're not on Discord, get on Discord. Like right now, get on Discord, okay? The link to the Discord is in the wiki, and where else can they find it, Jeff?
securityweekly.com/subscribe is your key to unlocking access to the Discord server.
You know who also stood out? Jeanette Manfra. Jeanette Manfra stood out big time.
Yes.
Right?
And Ron
to be able to
Ron
see,
Ross.
Oh my gosh, to be able to see a leader that high up inside of an organization actually follow everything down and understand what's going on throughout the stack, and then be able to enable her people. Oh my Lord, that was such a great discussion. That was wonderful.
Priya, God, John, what's Priya's last name?
Chowdhury?
Chowdhury. Thank you.
Priya Chowdhury, yes.
Oh my God,
that was incredible.
So freaking awesome. She is amazing. I mean, and John, thank you for bringing her. She's amazing.
Of course. And I'll just say, you know, as the new guy, you know, it's been such a pleasure to, you know, integrate with this group and you know, try to add something to what you already have. But I'm just really admiring, you know, what you guys have put together. You know, this is the kind of show that couldn't have existed probably 5 or 10 years ago. And it really shows, you know, what people can do when they have the ability to broadcast themselves, and it's a new world, and it's a pleasure to be a part of it.
Well, thanks, John. And yeah, I mean, you've only been here, 2 months? Again, time is a blur.
Yeah. And we're going to see if we can get you onto that, you know, a preview, foreshadowing. We want to do a Security and Legal Weekly.
Yes, we do.
So if we can get some law firms that might want to sponsor that, we can do a full-on legal show with John and Priya, because she's awesome.
And John also needs to start going to Enterprise Security Weekly, Business Security Weekly, Paul Security Weekly, and moonlighting on the other shows, because John, you're bringing that legal component, and it's varied against all of the shows. Every single show that Security Weekly has a legal component. Right.
And so, by the way, I'm just gonna take the opportunity, Scott, to tease the next segment, because I know Jeff's getting ready to call it an end for this one. But we're going to be discussing next segment a very important guidance that was put out by the Department of the Treasury on October 1st, saying that you, in many instances, as an intermediary, cannot facilitate ransomware payments. So if you get hit by ransomware, there's some new hot off the press legal guidance that is scaring the crap out of every lawyer right now. So we'll talk about it next time, or next hour.
Next segment. Yeah.
Watching lawyers shaking their shoes.
No, this is a big deal. So we'll talk about it. And actually, I'll put it up in the Discord chat now, so people can get ready.
Go for it. That's perfect.
Yeah, adding the legal perspective to our show has certainly been an interesting dimension. And boy, does Priya like to talk?
Holy cow! Objection.
She takes a breath and then the textbook comes out. It's amazing. And I echo the sentiment from Scott that legal touches on every facet of security, and by extension, every one of the shows in our network. So there's plenty of room to get around and plenty of topics to chime in on. So we will try to figure out how to legally work in the legal aspects or something like that.
God.
Yeah, I mean, and in terms of the future, we've chatted amongst ourselves. Nothing is set in stone yet, but one thing that we're trying to do in terms of trying to grow the show and trying to make it even better is figure out how to make it longer. Maybe perhaps in the next year we'll be able to add a third segment, or reasonably make the segments that we have longer, since we're starting to run them long anyway these days, but so sort of legitimately. Yes,
Jeff?
Scott?
I want to steal just a tiny bit of time. I know we're going to get out of this, but Kat.
Yes.
Kat, I directly want to ask you, when you're working with companies and you're working with businesses, what are some of the things that we could be covering over the next year that would really help businesses move? Like, if you can give me like a top 3 points.
I think that actually you touched on one, which was empathy. I don't think that people understand when you're the role you're playing and the position you're playing when you come into their organization to help them out. So let me give a quick example of that. A lot of these leaders want to securely but keep their business moving, right? And you need to kind of be empathetic towards that. Jeff, you were talking earlier about how you came in when these folks had breaches. That puts them in a completely different mindset, I feel like, to be receptive to stuff like that. But when you're going in and they haven't had that breach yet, it's kind of like you need to get them on that same page. So I guess having empathy, playing your position, knowing what that position is and how it would actually benefit and help them. Because there's a difference between an auditor coming in, the auditor before the auditor kind of consultant coming in, the pen tester coming in. Like there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And that's pretty different. And then I guess for a third thing is, I don't know. I'm nervous as shit. Sorry, guys.
You're fine. You're fine.
I know. I'm trying to chill.
No, you're fine. No, you're absolutely fine. Go ahead, Jeff.
Right.
No. What Kat says is true, and that's one of the real reasons why I always try to point out that it happens to be PCI, but when I hear auditor, I encounter it all the time with my customers. They've been presented that the auditor's coming, and so they have this mindset already that somebody's out to get them, somebody's trying to get them to trip up, find fault, isn't going to be able to provide any kind of rationale or explanation or
Totally.
explanation of what's trying to be accomplished, and so the whole exercise, the whole engagement is set up for failure. And again, I try to come in, and I'm fortunate enough to be in a trusted advisor role, so I'm not the auditor. I'm there to help them out by design, but I forever am trying to get people to understand, these are rules that you should be applying everywhere. These things that we call the PCI data security standard.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
The whole industry has given PCI, the security hacking side of the industry has given PCI a bad name, if not the whole thing, because there's so much misunderstanding in lumping it all together, and nobody gets compliance, nobody gets the audit, nobody gets assessment. That's probably my other reason for doing this show, is trying to educate people that no, this is just basic security stuff that you should be doing, kind of regardless of what you're trying to protect.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. But I think, it's funny because I did have the same feels and position as you when I was an auditor. I was like, dude, I'm totally here to help you. I'm not here to trip you up, et cetera, et cetera. When I became internal security is when I realized that within the organization, that other customers that I had seen, that I did gain their trust as a third-party advisor, they were like, okay, she is cool, she does get security, et cetera, et cetera. They still, at the end of the day, were like, I still need something from her. I need her to sign the rock. I need, you know what I'm saying? Like, I need her to sign off on what I'm doing. And so they'll kind of tell you anything. They'll social engineer you to oh yeah, I get that you're, you are a trusted third party, blah, blah, blah. It was only when I was out of that environment and actually working in internal security department did I realize that people weren't 1,000% on board with, they're not here to trip me up. They still, in the back of their mind, just by the nature of what you're there to do, they still did feel like they're not out to get me, but they still could. And they still felt threatened by that kind of stuff. And that was something that I didn't even know until I left the QSA world. I had no idea that was going on, and nothing that I could do to comfort them into, dude, I'm your trusted advisor. Nothing worked.
Where's that 3 inches of amazing when you need it?
3 inches of awesome.
Oh, man.
Mama earrings.
There you go.
Little inside joke before we went on the air that our listeners are going to scratch their heads over, but we're allowed to have a little bit of that going on. Josh, John, Scott, Kat, any other ideas of where we want to go in the future, where we're hoping to go? There was one more I wanted to share, but I want to give you guys a chance.
I really want to sort of synthesize what's been said, which is that compliance, security, empathy, soft skills, business, they're all in the same sort of realm. And while for decades we thought of them as fully separate sets of skills, it's soft skills, it's hard skills, it's auditing, it's this, they're all exactly the same thing. It's all about doing the right job, doing the job you said you were going to do, working with each other, being professional, understanding what people are doing and understanding why and working with them about it. This all matters, and it's all in the same realm. Compliance, I've said this before, compliance is like the symbiote that brings all of these things together. So that's just me.
Cool.
Small business.
Go ahead, Scott.
Small business. We really need to take a good look into small business, right? Why you would be obscenely incest. I'm sorry, that's not the right word. Why you would be insanely
it's the
obsessed.
wrong word.
It's so the wrong word. Oh my gosh. Oh man, where's the editor note when I need it? Like right up here. Why you're either insanely obsessed or just straight up insane to start your own business. What makes a small business work? What do you need as characteristics of leadership? How do you exit? Right? Like we really need to dive into that. The other thing that we need to dive into, and I'm going to say it, Josh, I'm sorry, CMMC. We need to dig into that big time because of all of the businesses that CMMC is going to hit, right? Right now, it's hyper-focused to the defense industrial base, right? DoD only companies. I really feel that they're going to branch this out into not only just DoD, but the rest of the federal government, and corporations in the US. And then from there, go out and go global with the CMMC standard, right? So understanding how to navigate those waters from a technical perspective, from a policy and procedure perspective, is something else that we're really going to have to hit, and we're going to have to hit it hard, right? We have the ins to do it, right? I mean, how difficult is it to reach out to somebody and say, hello, we're IT people. We love to be extroverts. Okay, never mind. We really don't. So, small business, CMMC, soft skills, go.
All right. So we should wrap this first segment. The only other thing I wanted to share, and this is something Scott and I were talking about, I think, in the last week or two. I honestly forget whether Josh was involved in the conversation or not, but I think it was when you came over to the house the other day. We were talking about, we have such great chats on the Discord server. Maybe we should do like an after show. Hey, we're all going to jump on the Discord server for, next 20 minutes, half an hour or something like that. We'll probably do that organically, but, and we don't have a cool name for it yet, but we enjoy the heck out of the conversations on the Discord server. And I, for one, being old and slow, I have to go back and catch up and read up because I miss a lot of the questions and comments. And by the time I'm ready to respond, everybody's gone off to their next thing. So that's one other thing that we're working it out. And finally, Scott has pointed out that just as we figured out how to go live, we might have to build in that 7-second delay for the occasional oops. But to sum it up, thank you for the first year. It's been an amazing journey. And we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and do what we do, which is pick apart a hot topic that impacts security and compliance. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.